It's 5 to 9 on a Sunday morning in November, and I am standing outside the gates of Greenwich Park in southeast London, trying my hardest to look both sporty and like I really have my life together. Over in one corner are my family, my mum, my uncle Andrew, and my best friend Sophie. I had spent 5 months training to run the New York City Marathon very, very slowly. And then 36 hours before the marathon start, they canceled it because of Hurricane Sandy, which was absolutely the right thing for them to do. But I was now stuck because I wasn't going to not run a marathon. I had just spent 5 months training. So I decided I'd run the London Marathon instead, except it wasn't happening for another 4 months. So I just thought I'd run it anyway on my own. So there are a bunch of things that you don't get when you run a solo marathon. I had run a marathon 3 years before I did the New York City Marathon, and one of the things is a medal. So I brought along, this is the medal that you get. It's like, it's pretty chunky. And I was the kid at school that got picked last for every team. So it was like very meaningful for me when I got this. So I know I'm not going to get a medal. I find my peace with that. The second thing you don't get is crowds of people cheering you on. But I had sent an email to everyone I knew in London saying, here's my sponsorship link, and also please come and cheer me on. And the third thing is water and Gatorade stations. So normally in a marathon, once a mile, they have these stations because 26.2 miles, it's quite hard to like carry that much water with you. So instead, my family are here because they're going to drive up every 4 miles to give me water and also Kleenex, because it turns out when I run, so does my nose. So they're over there. Over in the other corner is this guy, Jim Patterson, who 48 hours before, I hadn't known he existed, but someone put us in touch because he had run a solo marathon. And he said, do you have anyone to run with you the first few miles? And I said no, and so he offered to come along and run with me. So he's there, and then straight ahead is the photographer from the local paper. Now, I happen to know from Facebook that quite a lot of those kids who didn't pick me for the team still live in the local area, and so that is why I'm trying my hardest to look both sporty and like I really have my life together. So finally, it gets to 9 o'clock, and everybody counts me in. Join in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And Jim and I set off very, very slowly. So we're jogging along, and then suddenly there's a little boo-doo-doo-doo, and I reach into my bra. Because running 26.2 miles, there's like a lot of things that you want to carry with you, and I didn't want to take a backpack. So in my bra, I have running gels, which are like how you eat when you are doing a marathon, those little packets. I also have a map, because weirdly, they didn't shut down all the streets in London and put up signs just for me. I know, so rude. And so I made this map of like bits of paper stuck together, and I've tried to kind of laminate it with Scotch tape, so that's in there. I have some headphones because I figure it's probably going to be quite boring and lonely for long stretches. And then I have my phone. So I pull my phone out, and it's somebody texting to say good luck, and I put it back in, and then we're jogging along, and I'm chatting, and we get to mile 1, and I pull my phone out again, and I open Twitter. So everybody who'd come to cheer me on, I don't really have a sense of like how long it's going to take me. Like, I know how fast I run. I know how slow I run, very slow. But I don't really know, like, is there going to be roadblocks? Like, would all the streets be open? So I said to them, keep an eye on Twitter, and I will tweet once a mile so you can get a sense of where I am. So I write, mile 1 done, and then we get to mile 2, and I think, well, it's going to be boring if I just say mile 2, mile 3. So I say, oh, people are giving us some weird looks. And they are, because I'm wearing what I was going to wear to run the New York Marathon. So I have my race number, and also I have my name across the front and back of my shirt, because when you're running the New York Marathon, people just like strangers will cheer you on. They'll be like, oh, Marsha, New York City is proud of you, Marsha. And so I have my name, but obviously like it's a random Sunday in London, so no one is yelling at me. And I get a couple of messages back, and then we get to mile 3. I'm like, oh, Jim's telling me about some of the marathons he's run. And then we're coming towards mile 4, and my phone starts going, just like message. And so we get there, I see my family, I hug them, and I say to Sophie, like, I'm getting a lot of tweets. And she goes, bit of news. It's been going around Twitter that you are live tweeting your solo marathon. They're calling it the Marshathon. Darling, you've gone viral. So I'm like, that's amazing. So we keep going, we're jogging on. And then I see someone in the distance, and I know who this is. This is a friend of mine who I went to summer camp with when I was a kid. I haven't seen her in 25 years, but she said that she'll come out. So I go up and I hug her. And usually in a marathon, you can just like high five your friends and keep going. But this person has no one else to look at, so it seems kind of rude to just leave her. So I stand and, do some stretches and have a chat with her. And then we keep going, and I'm tweeting and I'm chatting to Jim. And I am having a great time. When I had run the other marathon, I basically just like cried the whole time. And I remember getting to the point where it was like halfway, and everyone's like, you're already halfway. And all I could think was like, I've got to do all of that again. But it doesn't feel like that at all. So we keep running, and then we get to this part of London called Rotherhithe, and we're in this place that's like industrial wasteland, and there's a guy standing in the road, and there's like no shops here, there's no houses, and as we get closer, it's very clear that he's looking at us, and we jog on by, and he comes up and he goes, are you Marsha? And I say, yeah, and he hands me a bottle of Gatorade, and I say, oh, did you, get an email? And he's like, no, I just saw it on Twitter. Thought I'd come out and see you. So I'm like, that's brilliant. We keep going. We come up like mile 9, mile 10, and we get to mile 11. And at this point, my friend Kerry shows up. So I used to be on the radio in London, and Kerry and his wife Becca and his amazing kid Angharad used to listen to me, and they'd give me shout outs. And so they're all three there. Kerry's going to run with us. Becca and Angharad are like running along for a little bit. And then we get to Tower Bridge, which, if you don't know London, it's like this kind of sexy white and pale blue one that's in all the movies. And as we get onto the bridge, I see someone's holding like a big piece of card. And I get closer and I see that it's a giant sign that says, go, Marsha, go. And I see it's my friend Kat, and standing next to her is this friend Scott, who lives in Edinburgh, which is like 8 hours drive away, which I know for North Americans is not that far, but for us it's the entire length of our country. And I say like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you were going to be in London today. And he said, oh, I wasn't. Just drove down for this. Got to go back in a couple of hours to get to work tomorrow. So I sent him off to be with my family. And at this point, Kerry goes, do you know that was the halfway mark? And I'm like, what? Because it feels like 10 minutes have passed. And then we realize that Jim has accidentally run an entire half marathon. So we send him home. And then there's a woman standing there waving at us, and we go up to her and she goes, oh, are you the runny marathon people? And I say, oh yeah, did you find out about us from Twitter? And she goes, no, BBC. And I said, I'm sorry. And she says, yeah, your photo is the main photo on the main story on the front page of the website for the entire BBC. And so she comes and runs with us, and we keep going, and then we pick up my friend Tom, who I met when I was doing the other marathon, my friend Richard, who's this like 6'2" criminal psychologist, and so we're running like mile 15, mile 16, mile 17, we get to mile 18, and I fall. I stand up. Walking around, okay, I'm fine, I can walk. I start running again, agony, I fall down again. And I realize that my knee has kind of collapsed, like I can walk okay, but I can't run. And I'm sitting down on the sidewalk and I don't know what to do. And I look up at these people who are all training for their own marathons, and I think, my God, I've let them down. And then I send out a tweet to let people know. And first I get a text from a friend who says, you know what, we're 3 miles down the road, we've been waiting in the cold for an hour, we can't wait any longer, I'm so sorry. And I think, God, I've let her down. And then tweets start coming in from people who are saying, oh, I've been really enjoying following along, but I've got to go to work now, and I think I've let Twitter down. And then I get a text from my friend Paul, and it just says, OMG, Marsha, you're winning. And I think, I'm the only one running this race. I am winning. And so I stand up and I stick out one elbow and I stick out the other, and I channel my inner lycra-clad Floridian senior citizen, and I start to speed walk. So I'm speed walking along, and everyone around me, there's like 4 of them now, they're all kind of jogging, and so we keep going, we're speed walking, we're like mile 19, mile 20. At one point I realized that everybody I'm running with, they're all like either 6'2" or really ripped, and Kerry leans down and goes, it's a bit of a Madonna jogging in Central Park vibe, isn't it? And so we keep going, like mile 19, 19, mile 20, mile 21. We're now on the embankment. It's dark because it's been hours. And we get to mile 24. And on a whim, I pick up my legs and I try running. And I can do it. And so I'm running, so everyone else is running. We're silent next to us. We're running along the Thames, just this big black mass of water next to us. And without even thinking about it, I start to sing. And without saying a word, the four of them join in. We're doing the Rocky theme tune. Join in. We get to mile 26. We get into St. James's Park. We run towards Buckingham Palace. We turn around the corner. My whole family is standing there. Kerry's family is standing there. They've got a red ribbon. I run along. I break the ribbon. They throw confetti at me. Everybody cheers. We finished. I go and I sit down on the curb, and Sophie comes up and she says, I've looked at the fundraising page. Before I started the solo marathon, I'd raised around $3,000. She said, you've got up to $6,000 for the cancer charity in honor of Lisa Lynch, the author. And I'm sitting there. And then Angharad, Kerry's daughter, comes up to me and she says, I've made you something. And I say, what is it? Let me show you. It's a medal. And on it, she's written lots of little M's for Marshathon. And in the middle is a number 1, because I won the Marshathon.